everybody. I am going to pause this interview with Tommy and talk to my friend Johnna Farmer.
Hello.
Who you just saw recently on the Cult Movie Cantina Xanadu episode. And
so much fun.
We hope to have you again on sometime this season. We're going to do some more fun stuff. Plus, we're going to have you on Tuesdays with Scotty as well. But you're going to be on Tuesdays with Scotty on this little segment that we call
interrupting things.
You are interrupting things.
Okay.
And you like mystery and true crime stuff.
Love it.
And so
that's pretty much all I watch, to the point where it disturbs my husband a little bit. He's like, please stop watching Snapped. I can't have you watching that anymore.
So trigger warning for everybody out there. This is a heavy story. I will let everyone know this is a heavy story. But it's one I didn't know for a long time, and then I found out and got obsessed with it. So I even have a book up. I'll show you pictures, and then I'll post pictures too for everybody to see. But you can see there's some visual aids.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I am ready.
What if I told you that one of America's most beloved comedians... I had text messages as I read that.
It's texting me right now.
Right now. It's texting me right now. And it's like, well, that just blocks what I'm trying to read. So again, what if I told you that one of America's most beloved comedians and theater actors almost didn't survive past the age of 13? That a day at the circus would change his life and many other people forever.
Interesting.
July 6th, 1944.
44.
Was an extremely hot day in Hartford, Connecticut. The town was excited, though, as the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus was in town. The show had clowns, animal acts, and trapeze artists ready to catch the imagination of every boy and girl who watched. Thousands of people came and sat under the big top. Among the thousands of circus goers was a young Charles Nelson Reilly, who would later become a Tony Award-winning actor, a stage director, and a panelist on game shows and late-night talk shows in the 70s. Now, if you're not familiar with Charles Nelson Reilly, for those who are not, I'm a big fan. I like watching Buzzer.
Yeah, Buzzer.
Buzzer is a game show network that shows pretty much 70s and 80s game shows. And
or as my kid says, vintage
game shows. And Charles Nelson Reilly is one of the more flamboyant characters that's usually on the Match Game or Hollywood Squares. There's a time it's either him or Paul Lynde. And they're interchangeable. But
so how old was he?
He is 13.
13 at the time.
13 at the time of this. Actually, my next line is he was 13 at the time, and his friend had gotten free tickets to the circus. He asked his mother if he could go, but she said no, since they were already going to the show later that night with his father. You can't go to the circus twice. Well, he snuck off anyway, and when his mother caught him, she screamed from the porch saying, "I hope it burns to the ground."
Oh no.
The big top tent could seat 9,000 spectators around its 3 rings and measured 200 feet.
Okay, first of all, can I stop you for a second?
Sure, absolutely.
Why would his mother hope it burns to the ground just because he's going twice? Like, I get you want to put your foot down and say, I'm the mama and I make the rules.
Right.
But you hope it burns to the ground?
Right.
You're a monster.
She kind of. It's also the 40s.
It's also the 44, I guess. Yeah. Okay.
I think
you can't say step on a Lego. Like, I hope you step on a Lego.
Right.
I think it's one of those things where you're mad in the moment and you
I
regret
get
it
it,
later.
but burn to the ground is excessive. Okay, continue.
So the big top could seat 9,000 spectators around its 3 rings and measure 200 feet wide by 400 feet long with 15 high side walls and a roof that was nearly 50 foot high. So it's a huge spot. Inside the tent had been erected over freshly mowed grass and exposed dirt that had been watered down and covered with wood shavings and hay. On either side of the 3 rings were bleachers and unsecured folding chairs. So you had bleachers on both sides and like kind of a crowd area for people to sit in folding chairs. Mm-hmm. There was one main exit outside the tent and 8 smaller exits, but many of these had been blocked by wagons and other circus equipment.
Of course they had.
During the afternoon matinee, right after a performance of a French lion tamer, Alfred Court, the Flying Walendas, who had extremely famous, who made their Ringling Brothers and Barnum Bailey Circus debut in 1928, playing Madison Square Garden of no less, were set to go. While they were performing, the circus band leader immediately directed the band to play the Stars and Stripes forever. Now, do you know what the significance of that is?
No.
When a band leader plays that for a circus, that means to tell all the people who work at the circus that there is trouble.
Oh no!
Right? So
Really?
yeah. So if if you're
Is that like an
yeah?
Did you know that before this?
I did not know that before.
Oh, wow,
doing the
okay.
research on that. But Stars and Stripes
Interesting.
forever, when it's played, it's a signal to the circus performers and the circus people that there is some sort of trouble, and so it doesn't alert the audience. They don't want the audience to
Wow.
panic. So
That makes me wonder if I've ever, because I've been to the circus a lot.
right. It's like
if I've ever heard it and not had any idea.
right.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
So they played Stars and Stripes forever, and which was a sign of distress to all circus personnel. The band leader spotted flames crawling up the circus tent sidewall. The ringmaster called out to the audience not to panic, but the fire had shorted out the power, and so he wasn't heard. They tried to maintain some kind of order, but the panic of the crowd was overpowering. It became chaos.
Oh no.
Ushers tried to douse the fire with water jugs that had been stationed around and to pull the canvas sections down that were on fire, but it didn't work. When the fire was growing out of control, the ushers moved to help get the audience member out. The lions that had been performing before the flying Walindas were herded into a chute and led into a cage wagons outside, and they escaped with only minor burns. So the cats made it.
I thought you were going to say, and they escaped. And I was like, oh, this just adds to it. Okay.
Right, but no.
Okay.
But the crowd wasn't so lucky.
Oh.
Escaped, but in the panic and hysteria, people were running in circles looking around for loved ones instead of trying to escape the burning tent. Some escaped but ran back to look for family members. Some just stayed in their seats expecting the fire to be put out before they were overcome by smoke and flame before it could be. One survivor, Maureen Creakin, who was 11 at the time and was in the bleachers, remembered, and she quotes, "I remember someone yelling and seeing a big ball of fire near the top of the tent. And this ball of fire just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And by the time everyone was panicking, the exit was blocked and with the cages that the animals were brought in and out with. And there was a man taking kids and flinging them up and over that cage so they could get them out. I was sitting up in the bleachers and I jumped down. I was 3/4 of the way up. You jumped down and it was all the straw underneath. There was a young man, a kid, who had a pocket knife, and he slit the tent, took my arm, and pulled me out."
Wow.
Charles Nelson Reilly's friend yelled fire as soon as he saw it, and the boys quickly knew they had to jump from the bleachers to escape. They escaped the burning tent as it was going up, and by the time they reached the parking lot, the tent was gone. It would later be reported that the tent didn't collapse. It evaporated.
Oh my gosh.
And this is why. The tent was waterproof with a formula of 1,800 pounds of paraffin wax that was dissolved in 6,000 gallons of gasoline.
Oh my stars. I feel like I should have and stripes. Oh my stars and stripes. I feel like I should have better commentary, but this is insane.
Right. This is an insane story. So it was a common treatment that had been used for decades, and because of rationing during World War II, it was thought this was the best way to keep the rain from soaking through the tent in case of a storm. A storm would ruin the circus, causing Ringling Brothers to give back money.
Whoa.
The paraffin wax was so hot it melted and rained on top of the evacuees as the tent vanished around them.
Now, I think I've heard the paraffin wax. Maybe I'm imagining that. I don't continue.
No,
that is just wild.
Yeah.
I feel like I've seen that in a movie or something like that before, and I don't know where I've seen it.
According to eyewitnesses, the tent collapsed in about 8 minutes, trapping hundreds of spectators beneath it.
8 minutes.
Yeah. Imagine it's 6,000 pounds of gasoline. That's literally, it's just gasoline in the ceiling.
Yeah.
So fire hits that.
Fire in the sky.
Right.
It's just fire in the sky.
In a canvas tent. Woof. There is no official count of the spectators, but it was assumed around 7,000 people were involved. Of that, 168 people were killed, and that's the highest number that includes collecting a collection of unidentified body parts that were labeled as victims. Over 700 people were treated for various injuries, but that number may be skewed as many victims just went home instead of seeking treatment that day.
So I'm trying to imagine this crowd because I'm going to be honest, when you first, I know you said it was huge.
Right.
And I was trying to imagine it in my head. And I've been to the circus plenty of times, never that scale.
Right.
The wharf in Orange Beach holds 10,000 people. So 7,000.
Right.
That is a ton
Of people.
to get out in 8 minutes.
Right, in 8 minutes.
You can't
do it.
Oh my god.
You can't do it. And so there's
I've got chills right now.
Right. Most of the dead were found in piles, some 3 bodies deep near the exits.
Just trying to cover each other up.
No, because that's where they fell.
They fell.
And to get trampled.
Most
people died by asphyxiation, burns, and trampling.
Oh.
But get this, a small number of people were found alive at the bottom of these piles, protected by the bodies that were on top of them.
Wow.
When the tent finally came down. The best known victim of this fire was a young blonde girl wearing a white dress. She was identified and was only known as Little Miss 1565, named after the number assigned to her body at the makeshift morgue. She was well preserved after her death and arguably became the most familiar image of the fire. We have a picture. That's her.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you can just see the burns on the side of the face, but other than that, it just looks like a sweet little blonde-headed girl.
Her identity has been the topic of debate since the fire occurred. After not being identified, she was buried without a name. They just buried her under Little Miss 1565. The police investigators photographed her, took fingerprints, footprints, and dental charts. The photograph was then published, the one I just showed you, nationwide magazines, but she was never claimed. The investigators never stopped looking until their deaths, which was in the 70s and 80s, and they decorated her grave with flowers every Christmas, Memorial Day, and July 4th. And after their deaths, a flower company took over and decorated the grave. In 1981, one of the investigators' widow had said that he had identified the child and contacted her family, but they had requested no publicity. In 1987, someone left a note on the 1565 gravestone, reading Sarah Graham. Her name, 7638 date of birth, 6-year-old twin. Notes on a nearby gravestone indicated that her twin brother and other relatives were buried nearby. In 1991, the body was declared to be Eleanor Emily Cook, an 8-year-old who was at the circus, though her aunt and uncle examined the body and it didn't fit the description they provided. Connecticut State Police compared hair samples and determined that they were probably from the same person. The body was exhumed and buried next to her brother Edward, who also died in the fire. Here's a picture of...
Okay, I'm going to let you finish.
Go ahead.
So this is bizarre to me.
Right.
So... were the parents at the circus? Did they? You're probably getting there.
Yeah,
you're getting there. You're getting there. Okay.
Like I said, the body was exhumed and buried next to her brother Edward, who also died in the fire. 2 books on the subject: A Matter of Degree, written by Rick Davies and Don Macy, and The Circus Fire, which I have here, A True Story of an American Tragedy by Stewart Onan, have different theories on the identity of Little Miss 1565. Eleanor's surviving brother tried to contact the police in 1955, insisting that the girl was his sister, but nothing came out of it. He believed his family members were shown the wrong body at the morgue. Onan, in this book, has a different thought. He points out that the 1565 girl had blonde hair, Cook was brunette, and the shapes of their face was different. Eleanor's mother also stated that it wasn't her daughter and maintained that stance until her death until 1997. She had been badly injured in the fire and was unable to claim her 2 dead children and too traumatized to pursue it later.
Oh, wow.
Onan thinks Eleanor was actually body number 1503, which was one of 2 children burned beyond recognition.
Oh, my goodness.
Even the cause of the fire was debated. Some believe it was to be arson or a carelessly flicked cigarette. Teenager Robert Dale Seggy had confessed to starting the fire. In a police interrogation, he admitted to setting the circus fire and other fires and confessed to several murders during his youth.
Boy, what are you doing with your life?
He had claimed he had a nightmare, which a Native American on a flaming horse commanded him to set fires. He drew pictures.
Okay. All right.
He drew pictures of it. That's his prison drawings.
Ah, yes. Uh-huh. That's a little horsey.
Yeah.
It's yeah. Okay. All right. And then that's just like a sea monster is what it looks like.
He wasn't charged.
He was not charged.
He was not charged.
He admitted all this, and he was not charged.
He was not charged.
Did they think he was just crazy and he was falsely?
Well, he gets crazier, right? He was arrested 6 years later in Ohio for an unrelated arson charge and sentenced to 44 years in prison. Though Connecticut started to doubt his claims due to his history with mental illness, and then he recanted his confession many years later and was maintained his innocence of the Hartford fire until 97, right before he died.
Whoa.
Yep.
Okay.
Ringling Brothers paid almost $5 million, which is equal to $52.7 million today, to 600 victims and families who filed claims against them by 1954.
But only 600 out of 7,000?
Right.
That's crazy.
Right.
You'd figure it would be more.
I think they went to, who are severely are burned and are injured and then lost.
Yeah.
And then if you were, because it's the 40s and 50s, like you were traumatized, you can just, rub some dirt on you. All right.
Yeah.
They never consider
rub some dirt on it.
Right,
yeah.
You're fine. Right. You're fine.
You're fine.
You'll get
no blood. No blood. You're fine.
Right. 5 officials and employees of Ringling Brothers were charged with involuntary manslaughter. 4 were convicted and given prison sentence, but were allowed to continue with the circus to set up the next stop, which was in Florida. They were shortly pardoned afterwards.
Holy cow.
So Connecticut gave him a show trial.
Man, do you think that's because I feel like it's so much deeper?
Right.
Like people in people's pockets.
Oh,
deeper.
absolutely.
That's all that is.
I mean, if Ringling Brothers got $5 million to pay people and let's say that's $52 million in today's money.
Holy crap.
Right. And especially when they can't figure out if it was arson or negligence or what. I mean, look, they're
So do you think, okay, let me ask you this.
Sure.
If so we have the song that signals that something's wrong
right
to the crew, to everyone on staff. Had we not taken the time to play a song, do you think we would have had more time to evacuate people?
So I don't think they
or do you think that was just like, hey, everybody on guard?
Right. I don't think they, I mean, he saw the fire. The band leader sees the fire and strikes up the band to play. That's what he's trained to do.
Right.
So I don't think they play the entire song, but it's like, oh no, it's basically setting the fire alarm off.
Right.
But,
okay.
So
except the crowd doesn't know it's fire alarm.
Right. The crowd's not unaware of it being a fire alarm. And then the ringmaster is doing his job, like, hey, everybody, we got to, there's an emergency, we have to leave. But no one hears him because
the power's out.
The power's out. There's short fire. So it's this collection of just events that keep snowballing out of nothing
in such a short period of time.
Right. I mean, realistically,
a 15-minute span.
15-minute span of this entire thing, and probably less than that, probably like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
From the time they see fire to the time Charles Nelson Reilly and his friend is outside the tent when it literally evaporates.
I mean, from the time the fire started, really, to the time it evaporates. Right. 15 minutes total? Maybe?
Total.
Holy cow. Just think about the amount of lives changed in 15 minutes.
Absolutely. It's just...
That is crazy. Insane to me. Okay, I gotta get your. Go ahead. I know you got more.
No, we got a little bit more. Okay. Too. But speaking about the people whose lives changed, notable survivors included Eunice Gorick, who would grow up and become one of the first female lieutenant governor of Connecticut. Mm-hmm. Drummer Hal Blaine, who is estimated to be among one of the most recorded studio drummers in history, claiming over 35,000 sessions. 600 singles, including 40 number ones, worked with Elvis, Frank Sinatra, Simon and Garfunkel, and others.
Wow.
The aforementioned Flying Wolandas, and Emmett Kelly, a famous clown who was who created the figure Weary Willie based on hobos of the Great Depression. So if you see clown artwork and you see the hobo clown, that's him.
Okay.
Like nationwide, that's him. There's I couldn't find it in the book, but I'll share it with you later. But there's a tragic photo of him with a pail of water at the burned down circus when they're looking for people and stuff, and it's like and the caption on it is "The Day the Clowns Cried," and it's just like,
oh man,
and it's hard. I saw this today, and it's just heartbreaking. And finally, Charles Nelson Reilly, who would go on to do great things, but the trauma of the fire haunted him into his death. He rarely sat in theaters to watch shows. even the ones that he directed. And when he did, he was always near the exit.
I mean, when you go through something like that.
In 2004, ground was broken for a monument at the site where the fire occurred. It was dedicated on July 6, 2005. The memorial consists of several bronze plaques that describe what was happening at specific times during the fire. The center plaque sits exactly where the center ring on the big top was on July 6, 1944, and has the names of each victim of the circus embossed on it. A memorial was erected at the Northwood Cemetery in Windsor, Connecticut, and is inscribed as follows. This plot of ground, consecrated by the city of Hartford as a resting place for 3 adults and 3 children who lost their lives in the circus fire, July 6, 1944, their identities known only to God.
Wow.
During its final tour, Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus visited Hartford, Connecticut.
And did a show?
Yeah, did a show.
Okay. All right. How long after that was?
Oh, that's just recently.
Just a few
years ago.
Oh.
So that is the story of the Hartford circus fire.
How have I never heard that story?
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard some crazy circus stories before, like true crime wise, but I've never heard that one. Okay, I want your theory on the little girl. Because I want to dig deeper. Like, and now I want to read this book. I want to.
Well, I'll let you borrow it.
Yeah, I will. I'm serious. I'll tear through it because this is the kind of stuff I love.
So a couple of things. There is a chance that they were shown the wrong body, and couldn't identify her, and then I think they had this body, and this was kind of thing that like they were sure they were gonna. We'll have a picture. Someone will claim this little girl, and no one does.
That's what's bizarre to me.
But
not even that no one claimed her, but that in a smaller town, that's not a huge town,
right?
That no one was her neighbor or her school teacher or her Sunday school. Like someone would have recognized this 8-year-old little girl.
So
right,
I think right, but I think it goes down to this. I think. Those people knew that she is one of the lost. She didn't survive this fire, but is this body that girl?
Yeah, but still, I feel like,
and when you saw the picture,
but I'm not in that situation either. I'm not traumatized. I'm not
right. But you also saw the picture,
right?
And we see the picture with her, and
I very different. I know,
right? She looked. I mean, she's definitely not alive, and so and she's also swollen. And
well, the picture of her deceased compared to the family photo, completely different.
They're different. So
yeah,
I can see where people are like not 100% sure. The hair color thing is a big deal, and he in this book, like I said, he kind of steers you in a different direction too.
Wow.
So I feel bad for the mother. She loses
two terrible.
Children. She loses 2 children, and not only that, I mean, she's also badly burned in this thing. And I get it. She's like, she's too traumatized to claim her children. It's just too painful.
Oh, you can't imagine.
Oh, I can't. Yeah.
So did you say how many people that worked for the circus?
No,
Parish? They didn't say.
I mean, it's in there.
Because it makes you wonder. I mean, conspiracy wise, my head starts blowing up at stuff like this. I'm like, did somebody want this to happen? Who was in whose pockets? What was it worth to them? Who was there that this could have been an inside job? I mean, of course, I don't think that's what it is, but it could be. I watch too many true crime shows for it not to be a question.
If I was a betting man and had a time machine, like we'd place a bet and go find out what happened.
Somebody threw a cigarette down.
I think it's somebody threw a cigarette.
It was the 40s. Everybody smoked.
Right. I think it was.
There was hay.
Yeah. Right.
I mean,
like as I was building the story, there's all this flammable stuff.
Yeah.
It just gets and then you realize, oh, the tent's literally gasoline and paraffin wax.
Holy shit.
All right.
Sorry.
So,
Holy crap.
No, exactly. No.
I mean,
we're an explosive podcast. Holy shit works.
Wow. And this was a daytime show.
Yeah, this is a matinee.
This is his mother
telling him, I want it to burn down. Hope it burns down.
Gee, did he ever say, hey, Mom? Like, did he come home and be like, hey, Mom, guess what happened?
I don't know if he confronts her.
With soot on his face?
So
hey, Mom, guess what happened today?
I first heard this story. There's a documentary, I think it's called Wrath of God. It was on the History Channel, like early 2000s. And I saw it one late night, and it's like it gets spooky, like,
Yeah.
especially when they're talking about the dead little girl, and you're just
Mhm.
like, like, is this dead little girl in my house kind of thing? 'Cause-
Right. Yeah.
'cause
So that's
every-
my next story. Like, is there a ghost of her? You know?
right,
Like,
right. And so it would probably be easier to be like, and what's your name?
Yeah.
So we can figure you out.
Yeah, exactly.
But before Charles Nelson Reilly died, he did a one-man show that was his life.
Mhm.
And they recorded it for a movie. They made a documentary kind of style film of it. And there's a section on the Hartford fire. I'll send it to you. I'll
Okay.
post it in the
Yeah.
notes
Yeah.
too,
Do that for me.
because you hear him just explain it, and it's short. It's like 5 minutes, but it is heartbreaking watching, because you can tell he is in his 80s by the time he does this show. He was 13 at the time, and it's fresh.
He remembers every
It
detail.
is fresh.
I can't imagine something like that would ever get blurred.
No, it's just like,
And
no
I
matter
mean,
how
we've
much-
all been through our own traumas in life, but something
I mean,
that
I didn't put this in the story, but the research was they were talking to survivors who are way adults now. They're like,
Mhm.
I was 6 at the time. I will never forget the smell of burning flesh.
Oh my God.
And she's like,
Oh, that makes
70.
me want to cry.
Right? It's just like you can't
Oh.
escape that trauma. It's just like, and again, 15 minutes at the most. At the most.
How many lives were changed that fast?
Right.
That was wild.
That was wild. Thank you, Johnna, for coming in.
Thanks for
that.
having me. I can't wait to come back.